one of the guys who was on the team, he was very interconnected in the cannabis industry in Colorado. So we got invited to go to what was called like the Cannabis Awards. And it was quite a red carpet thing. Like, it was ridiculous. I've never been to anything quite like it in my life.
Whoa.
And it was strange because it was at this place that's called The Church. I believe it's just called The Church.
I know that place. I lived in Denver for a couple of years.
Stop. This gets creep fest.
It's
you know that place.
Up.
It is super
it's a
perverse. Okay, so
The Church.
Yes, it's a psycho show.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So it is like an old Catholic church, right? This gets creepy, way creepy and dark super fast. So hang in there. And we get to this church. It's an old Catholic church, and they've got a red carpet. They have, like, you know, all the luxury cars, valets, the lights and everything. They're like trying to make it a serious production event. Like, this would make Edward Bernays and the propaganda system super proud. It was like, people are going to feel special here, you know? And so you get into the main entrance, and instead of like the sanctuary, right, they have filled the sanctuary with like a dance floor, you know, a DJ club, mixed studio, bar, like it's literally a club, you know, and in the corners of it, they have demons, like gargoyle, the most, I mean, drinking blood, ripping things apart, like the overt expression, de-occulted, demonic everywhere. Like, they have fully embraced disgustingness in every literally in the corners all around you. They brought in satanic idols and images of every kind, bestiality, like X-rated stuff all over the place. And it's up in these corners, and you can't quite see it because of the way they do the lighting. And so then they've got certain little undertone lighing so you can see little parts of it. But I bring around these stupid bright flashlights. Like, I don't mess around. I always like to light up the bright light, you know? Like, this is one of mine, you know? Like, I'm going to flood that sensor, you know? This is like 5,000 lumens. You know, this is the Nightcore HC35. I love this little flashlight. You can have these tiny things, and I'm the security guy, right? So I'm armed with light and body armor and
gotta have light.
Yep.
You bring the lights, and I bring lots of lights because I intend to be able to guard these people. You know, that these are my people I'm entrusted with, my VTs, my VIPs.
Right.
My job is to keep them alive and kicking through this whole entire ridiculous event. And I'm 100% sober, by the way, just so we're clear about all of that. Like, you don't go in to be people's bodyguard and get high and drunk all the time.
Right.
Terrible idea. And there's this incredible verse about being sober and vigilant because your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. But humble yourself, therefore, before the mighty hand of Elohim. Resist the devil, and he'll flee from you. So anyways, I'm going through this club with the guys. And they're, you know, doing all like the meet and greets and all this stuff, and they're trying to introduce me to these different people. And the guy Charles, who's kind of the head of this company and the CEO, he's getting connected to all these power players, because it is the real function of a lot of these events, guys, is for social networking. That's all it really is. It's like MLM companies meeting other MLM like recruits, and they're like, and it's just this like spider web of information being exchanged. So there's lots of these little meetings, and they want privacy. So they're like, we're going to go down to the sub-levels. And I'm like, oh, great. What could be in the sub-levels of a Catholic church? Freak show nightmares, you know it, altars and death cults. And I'm like, great, this is not the place I ever like to go, because this is like the culture I was raised in with the Jesuits and the Order of the Black Hand. I wrote a book, y'all, called Snatched from the Flames. If any of you are interested, I got an audiobook and an ebook on my YouTube channel, or in the descriptions. If you go to my YouTube channel, I've got all of that for free in the descriptions if you ever want to watch it or listen to it. But I was raised in this underground society, especially in this place called Lake Havasu, Arizona, with these people that are embrace this stuff in Catholic Church, like Our Lady of the Lake in Lake Havasu, Arizona. And underneath the sanctuary floors, you guys, is the real church. It is the gathering halls for people that do secret rituals to try to impart all kinds of opening of portals to be able to imbue the people with powers. It's where they really do their magical workings. And so we go down into the sub-level of the church, and you're literally underneath the sanctuary. And I am telling you guys, it is everybody's worst nightmare version of like total darkness and depravity. There is a second club underneath there, and in that club, walking around in there, are people engaged in X-rated stuff. It is disgusting and detestable stuff. I feel like I'm Ezekiel, who has been clawed through the walls and is seeing inside the house of Elohim in Ezekiel 8:9, and I'm seeing the abominations of all the elders and the leaders. You know, it was awful. But then as I'm standing there, my buddy Charles is talking to a head of a different company, and I look over, and there is this area that is got a few people gathered in a corner, and one of the guys turns over towards us, and his face is the stereotypical reptilian embodiment. And I am staring at this guy, and I'm looking very intently at him, and he's staring at me, and I can feel the presence of this being. Like there is something so cold when you embrace the kingdom of darkness, and it is because there is none of the fire of Yah. Like they are so absent, they're so disconnected from authentic humanity, from mankind. They've been given over, seared the conscience, and they are possessed, like a total possession. And not only that, like then it goes down into another level that gets into this world that most people don't think about. They think it's mythological, they think it's lore, but it's plainly written in the scriptures, which is hybridization, which is a physical alteration, a transformation, a transmutation of the being into something other than human, mankind. And this is what this being was, truly someone who had been consuming the blood of these serpents, consuming and altering themselves to become like one of the Nachash. And this is a class of species. This is a being that exists in reality, and they predominantly operate underneath the physical surface of the earth. Yeah. And I know this seems so bizarre, hollow earth, crazy, but it's really scripturally reality. Like there is another world.
It's accurate.
It's another world.
These people in Hawaii. We know.
Dang, we gotta talk a lot. This is thrilling, y'all. I was sitting there staring at this guy, and I had to turn over to my buddy and be like, "Do you see him?" You know, because I don't know. Sometimes some people see between the veil. You know what I mean? And I don't know if this is Yahuwah who has just opened my eyes to see clearly what's going on.
Right.
And both of them look over. There's one guy and he. Okay, so the first guy I asked, he looks over and he's like, "Yes, the reptilian." And I'm like,
he just what?
Yeah.
He just casually talks about it?
Of course, dude. These people were all into like talking to aliens and inviting them into their dreams. Like they were getting blueprints and schematics from these beings. Like these people were adepts. Do you know what I mean? Like they understood the other realm, and they understood second heaven powers. Like you got to understand in the upper echelons of the technology world, like it is sorcery, it is divination, it is the wizards and the witches that are running the show. It is just like the Anunnaki and the people that were a part of the Ubermensch programs in the Nazi. Like these are people that were doing deep occult workings, that were channeling these spirits, like Helena Blavatsky, and people that were bringing in these other things, and they're like, open the doors and release them into the earth. Like this is what we're warned about in Isaiah, that they're going to start doing this again, and you better be careful because they're going to open these doors and serpents are going to start biting people. Like they're going to start infecting the world. It says we're literally going to drink the poison of dragons again, like which is literally what we're getting out there. People are getting the poison of dragons. It's the monitor lizard. It's not necessarily the cobra.
And also in the Apocalypse of Elijah and several other extra biblicals, it says in the last days women will suckle serpents. I don't know if you've read that before, but that blew my mind. I was like, and the Sibylline oracles and Apocalypse of Elijah, and Baruch. I think it's like the Greek Apocalypse of Baruch. It says exactly those words, and I was just like, "Whoa, what is that going to entail?" You know?
It says, I think it is in Isaiah, it says, "Open the gates, ye rulers, giants, Rephaim are coming to fulfill my wrath."
Yep.
Like Yah's going to literally open the doors. The rulers, it says the rulers are going to do it, right? And these are the people that get beguiled by the doctrines of Balaam, right? The kings are always, there's a great, I know I'm not going to totally recommend the movie, but there's a breakdown in the movie 300 that shows you the way the world works, where you have the king who seems to be the king, right? And the king wants to fight back against Xerxes, which is a biblical king named in the scriptures, you guys, because the Bible is a reliable historical text.
Yes.
He has to go. He's the king of the Spartans, and he wants to wage a war. So who does he have to go to, right? Well, you have the senators, right? You have like the guys who are like, "Hey, we're the shot callers of the people," the politicians. You're like, "We're going to tell you," and he's like, they're all like, "No, don't bow to the Persian king. Bow to the Persian king. That's our ruling." And he's all like, "Screw that." So, but he then goes to so who does he go to? He goes to the gods. He goes to the priest class, right? The priest class is the mediators, right? And so he literally climbs the mountain. He has to climb to the high point, and then he goes before the priests, and he gives them their gold, right? Their blood money, just like Balaam, who loved the wages of unrighteousness, right? This is the diviner's fee. It's called the diviner's fee. You pay them, and then he goes over to the Vestal Virgins, what they were called, people that were possessed with the spirit of Python, the spirit of the serpent, that you read about in the book of Acts. And they were people that could foretell, right? People that had the ability to see the future. This is what serpents can do. The serpent has the ability to see the future. And this is like a real thing that you read about Yeshua when he's contending with the devil. The devil's showing him all the future kingdoms of the earth in a moment of time. He's showing him the future. They are the timekeepers. So whenever you want to track the dragon, track where the time zones have been. Like go to Greenwich at the time when they established Greenwich as the time central capital. Now it's in Boulder, Colorado at a place called the Nest.
No
it's literally
way.
the dragon's nest. Yes, the atomic clock. It's a
know
real
Boulder
place.
Very well. Oh my gosh.
National Institutes of Science and Technology, they have the cesium atomic clock that sets all the time to the earth, from your little smartwatch to the nuclear submarines that are full of the trident, like Poseidon's tridents that are at the depths of the earth. Like they are literally what control everything. And so that's anytime you want to know where the dragon is, he goes and makes his throne wherever the timekeeper is, because that's who he is.
Yeah,
that's his nature. Yeah. So that's one of his thrones is literally right there in Boulder, Colorado.
Wow.
And
that explains a lot.
Right. You got it. And that is where they broadcast the signal to the entire earth. So that's his communications platform. People, it's like you can literally knock down those antennae, you can destroy those things, and you can shut down their comm systems. Tuck that away in case you ever want to get zealous and braid a whip. You know, it's like this is the way that you can contend with this stuff. But these serpents literally would possess these women, virgins, and they portray it as like a woman. But these are children. These are children that get possessed by this stuff, and they are in this serpent cult, and they are the ones who tell the fortune, and they're like, no. You know, but the priest could be the interpreter who could lie and be like, don't go to war with them, because the politicians paid him too, right? This is the love of money, the root of all kinds of evil. And so Xerxes is going to get his showdown with the kings of Spartan because he's defies the gods, right? This is this whole ideology. And he's like, I'm going to go fight anyways. And that is a textbook example of the realities of how this system truly operates. The corporations uphold the kings. They give them power through money. And the kings hold on to their power through the priest class, and it's still the reality. So above, the real governors of our society still are the priests and the priestesses, and no matter what, it's never going to change. It will always be this way because it's the established order that is built into the creation. You need the messengers and the ambassadors of the mighty ones to be the representatives of them. They're physical agents on the earth, and they're the ones who dictate these things. And so those groups that I was a part of were embracing that communications network. They were embracing, this is where you go to get these communications. And so I was there as this total freak show, other outsider kind of person, because I was contending against that stuff and trying to get these free, having them renounce their oaths and Freemasonry and the sins of their fathers, and trying to break off these curses because they were plagued at night. They were experiencing the terror of the night. Lilith is what you read in Psalm 91, who used to come and snatch babies, kill babies, like the literal nightmares, these evil spirits that would come at night. Like Psalms 91 is a spiritual warfare thing. And if you read it in the Hebrew, you find out about the names of these entities and who you're actually battling with. And these guys were getting tormented. And so I was there trying to help them get free from this. And at the same time, I'm going down there and there's Reptilian walking around, talking to people, giving out his call shots to the kings of the merchants of the corporations, you know, and this is how the world actually operates. It's just veiled from people who are not in the club, from people who have not been willing to reach through the shroud and embrace total darkness. But once you do, it's like, veils off, come on in. We'll show you how this thing really works.
Wow, that's amazing.
There's a couple comments that talks about how they say that the reptilians do not have the ability to see the future. A couple people have commented on that. You want to expand?
I was talking about more the serpents themselves. Like I believe, like they would be the fallen seraphim who you're actually talking about. Like
the angels do have. Some of them
they're the
do
ones
have
I'm talking about. I'm saying the reptilians are more like their shot callers on this earth. They're the physical side of that. You know, you're saying you've got experience out there. Could you please rock my world? I would love to hear the history of what you guys have experienced.
Well, you tell about what you experienced on Maui. Okay, you know, Maui's been in the news a lot lately, right?
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier,
Isaac never went to Maui until about 2 years ago. And Isaac can see quite a bit.
Yeah, I have visions and dreams. So when we went there the first time, I slept the first night, and my first dream was about reptilians.
He woke up, he's like, Mama, how come I just had a dream about lizard people? And I was like, oh, okay, let's talk about that. Because there's a ton of elite. The elite pretty much own Maui. Like between Oprah, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, all of the top tech giants and everybody, they're focused on Maui right now because they own a ton of land there. and they want to make the entire island a smart island as like their first endeavor. So that was the reason for the fires. But you probably know about that. But yeah, no, we've encountered, and I lived on Maui. That was my first teaching job in like 1990. So even back then, they were like moving in, and just because Hawaii, like even if you're out and about in Hawaii, you're gonna encounter celebrities because they're just all over the place here. So one of the first times that I realized the reptilian aspect with the eyes thing, and they didn't shapeshift like totally in front of me, but the eyes did, was at a former church that Isaac and I used to go to. It was a huge mega church. And we didn't realize the evil that was going on behind it until, this is way back, this is like 2010, before we came out of all of that. But I went on an Easter Sunday to, they had a beach service, and it was like thousands of people there. And I always thought, like, I made a point to sit right in the front row so I wasn't distracted or anything. And I sit down, I look to my right, and the Ramseys are sitting right next to me, like from Boulder, Colorado. Like,
wow.
John and Patsy Ramsey, I was sitting right next to them.
Oh my
So I was like, oh my goodness, I wasn't aware of all this back then. So I was like, oh, just making conversation. And there was just Patsy Ramsey's face was flat, huge blue eyes, shape-shifted in front of me with the reptilian thing. And I was just like, whoa. And my first thought is, wait a minute, why are they at my church? For one thing. And then the pastor is recognizing them, having them stand up. And I look down, and John's got the big Freemasonry ring on. And I'm thinking, what in the world are they doing here in the front row and being recognized? And that was my last time at that church. I was just like, something is up here with this church, and why are they recognizing these Satanists, And then Patsy Ramsey, no affect at all. I'm asking her questions. She's just like a zombie, just staring at me with the shapeshift back and forth at the eye thing. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so creepy. I'm just praying, and I was like, dear God, please help me. Please get me out of here. So I made it through the rest of the service and left, and I was just freaked out. I was just said, okay, I'm not going back there. But I've encountered others. I mean, tons of other celebrities.
Could I just ask? Could I tell something about John Benet Ramsey? That's who you're referencing, right? The Ramseys from.
Yeah.
Okay, so I worked in Boulder, Colorado, at this place called AIM House, which is right on the hill in Boulder, and I had to drive past the house where, for those of you that don't know, she's talking about a case from the 1990s. Where a little girl, John Benet Ramsey, who was like basically a sex object for these people, who was made into this, little modeling girl who was dressed up and paraded around and passed around these circles in Boulder, Colorado, and all over the country for these little, dress up parades where they sexualize little girls, and then they go ahead and have ratings on them and evaluations on them. Anyways, on Christmas morning, they have this horrible discovery of this child that's been killed and butchered in very graphic detail. And it's designed as this is how they do these shock and trauma rituals to people on days where they're gathered together, and people are very vulnerable.
Oh yeah,
and
they believe everything.
They bring her out, but I learned some evidence. I learned about that case in more detail because I was working at this house where a lot of the people, this is like the history of this community is deeply embedded there. And during that investigation, when the police officers came into the house, the first thing they did was bring her body up and lay it in front of the Christmas tree. Okay? They lay her in front of I kid you not. They lay her in front of the Christmas tree. This is the detective. This is totally breaking all of the rules of investigative science, right? They come in and lay her in front of the Christmas tree, and they gather around her and do prayers over her body before they release all of this to the public. It is so unbelievably strategic darkness that is brought out of there, and that is that spiritual working that is brought forth to then impart this unleashing unto the people all around. It is, how deep is that darkness? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It is unutterably deep. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to just put that in there for those of you that don't know. You can look up, this is public information case on John Benet Ramsey and the investigation that went behind it. And these people were active players in the darkest of darks.
And another really twisted component of it is because they're such high-level Satanists that one of the ways that Satanists roll that I've been figuring out along the way is, and they even tell us right there in John Benet's name, because B'nai Elohim, right? The sons of God, right? Oh. And so John Benet is actually a little boy dressed like a girl. and that's even like a deeper, horrible twist to the whole thing.
Their children have to pass through the fire, right?
Yeah, so pass through the fire of Molech, and so that's what happens like during their one of their horrible rituals. But that was just one. I mean, there's been so many other celebrities that I've encountered just here in Hawaii. They're like I don't know if you've heard of Kelly Slater. He's a kind of a famous surfer. One of my friends supposedly dated this person, and we used to kind of party when I was into the world stuff, like maybe 25 years ago or stuff. I used to hang out at the North Shore in Hawaii a lot. That's where Kelly Slater's grounds are. Jack Johnson. A lot of the other celebrities would hang out with all of them. The whole surfer culture. A lot of Satanism going on there, and just really dark. And that they have the same eyes, though. I remember seeing like. I would meet these people, look in their eyes, it's exactly the same. They're bright blue, and then they always would switch back and forth. It was like they would squint to kind of try to hide it, but you could see it.
Yeah.
And it just felt really dark whenever I'd meet any of these other celebrities. It was just like, wow, what am I doing here? Why am I hanging out with these people? So I'm just grateful that the Most High brought me out of that. It's very rampant here in the state, and there's a reason why all of like the elite own property here too. Like even on the island we live on here, but the majority is on Maui, which is crazy because that's I think that's like now considered like a ground zero for all of the events that have happened in the past month there. And it should be interesting to see what develops out of all of that too, because you know
a great Holocaust.
Oh yeah,
it's called a burnt sacrifice. The word is a Holocaust.
Yeah.
You know, that is literally what they do in order to imbue this phoenix rising from the ashes. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And then the hometown that I grew up in, middle of the island, we have 13 military bases, very large here on Oahu. And the majority of the military base is underground. And this is kind of a known thing for people that live in Hawaii, you know, like you don't really see too much above ground except like the barracks, the base housing. But all like the top secret stuff, it's all like underground. Like, you know, Edward Snowden, that whole incident that happened with him was here, like just 5 minutes away from where I grew up, at Helemano Military Reservation. I was there. I knew some people that lived on that base, and so I was up there when they were digging the underground base. So it was like people that live here know. The mountains here are all hollow. They have like some of the largest deep underground military bases right below here in the islands, and it's just the level of human trafficking in the town that I grew up in. I was a school counselor there and also a social worker, so I worked with a lot of children whose parents would choose, it seemed like they would call them like the cash cow of the family, and so like they would choose one of their many children that they'd have in Polynesian families, and it would usually be a boy, and that boy would kind of be like trained to be like a woman of the night. So starting around age 12, 13, they would dress up in women's clothes, walk around on Friday, Saturday night, and the high-level military would come driving by and they'd buy them. This is all before internet and everything, like in the 80s and 90s. And so I think a lot of it's done online now, but then I would drive around Friday, Saturday night, my hometown, which is only like 30,000 people in the middle of the island, and I would try to talk to these were like kids that I worked with during the week at school, and I would try to talk to them and be like, what are you guys doing? That they're just like stoned out of their mind and really high and drunk and whatever it was to just like numb themselves because they knew it was coming, that the high-level military officers and all the higher-ups would come and purchase them, and then I wouldn't see them for a while, and then they wouldn't really remember what was going on when I talked to them at school like a couple weeks later. So it was just really, really dark what's going on here, and a lot of people are not aware of it. They look at Hawaii like this beautiful tourist place to vacation and have fun at the beach and everything, but a lot of it is going on right here, and I think that's why they chose here to be like that ground zero event that happened about a month ago. So it's really sad, but because it's such a beautiful place, just like Boulder. In fact, my mom is from Boulder. Yeah. She was a pastor's daughter raised in Boulder, Colorado, and so we have property there. I mean, we go back there on a regular basis, and the first time we brought Isaac when he was an adult several years ago, he could like feel like the darkness when we're driving through the city. He's like, I don't like this. Something is off with this town.
I hate Boulder. It's weird.
I used to even do, like in college, I used to even go there. I went to college in the mainland, and I would go to Boulder just for they had this thing in Halloween called a mall crawl, where everybody would dress up. Have you heard of that one? They would walk through the mall.
Pearl Street. Yep.
Thousands
Pearl Street
of
Mall.
people, all satanic ritual.
Yep.
I was part of that. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just thought it was like a fun party town, and it's not. There's a lot of darkness going on there.
They had operating in Boulder, Colorado. If you wanted to get a late term abortion, the preeminent late term abortionist in the entire United States was located in Boulder, Colorado. You could get a post birth abortion.
Yes.
Committed there in Boulder, Colorado.
Remember
This
holding
is like
the signs for that when we were there.
Well,
2
no,
years ago.
this was like preeminent. They're preeminent occult worker. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that you could come in and sacrifice your baby openly there, legally there, under this little protected act. And so that kind of behavior is what draws a great many people to. I did a post about Russ Dizdar, and he has a class that's called Satanism 101 on his website there, shatterthedarkness.net. And I posted this on Facebook as like a public message. And a Satanist, like an open Satanist, and I'm talking like a diehard, dedicated, real deal, like Satanist, Logness guy, posted on there, you know, like I am one of the black sons, you know, sons of Satan and all this stuff. And I went to his page, and I mean, he is an all-in committed individual. And like, I just got to say this right now, because I think people, like, when they hear stories like what you just talked about like the Nightwalker boys and these sex toys of the elite, they picture something very different in their mind, because they've been conditioned to not look at radical intelligent evil in the face. Like they want to not know about it. They want to shove their heads back in the sands of ignorant and be like, it's a lot more comfortable down here to suck sand into our mouths and then not even think about the lion that's coming and tearing us apart, you know? Like it is that level of, this is why I utterly despised churchianity for so long.
Me too.
They would